topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Ohio and Michigan, welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great show for you this morning. I got to tell you, I had a big decision to make to go on TikTok. It's not the cheapest platform in the world, and I decided to put our shows on TikTok, the entire show, not just a little reel. And I got to tell you, the numbers today, we've been promoting, this is our business broker show, and we've been promoting it for the last 2 days. People on TikTok actually knew what time it was coming on. And since we started promoting it, this is amazing. I love that TikTok gives you numbers so you have a chance to kind of get a feel. And right now, we have 891 likes already for our show that's just getting started. Let me introduce you to the top business broker. You know, we say Ohio and Michigan because that's the areas that we target, but I'm talking about the entire United States. Let me welcome Brad Ruth of Great Lakes Business Advisors. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. How's it going, Steve?
Good, buddy. I love doing the show with you. I know because I went through this. I went through trying to sell my business myself about 15 years ago versus getting a business broker. And when I saw the difference, Brad, of having a business broker versus me trying to do it myself, difference in night and day.
Yeah.
But I'm already getting questions. People are going, what is a business broker? So tell people about your business.
Yeah. So as a business broker, I help business owners when they're thinking about selling their business. Most people have never sold a business, so it's their first time they're going through it. So what I do is help them figure out what their business is worth. I'll do a business valuation for them. And I'll look at the value and determine it's based on a multiple of seller discretionary earnings, which we call SDE, or a multiple of EBITDA, which earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Those are big words and they're acronyms in our business, but it's all part of it. And your tax number and your what's your actual cash flow deal number are different, because as a business owner, you're trying to hide the profits from Uncle Sam because you don't want to pay the tax man. Whereas I will look at that and we'll look at where you expense things, whether it was country club membership, whether you had kids on payroll because you're paying for the college education, you're putting money in their Roth 401k or doing things like that, or you have, expensive vehicles, whatever it may be. There's things you're doing. You could be buying equipment that you don't need or you use very, very seldom. So those are things we do to recast the financial statements to come up with a real cash flow of the business. And when we determine what that is, then we get an idea of what a multiple is. And as the number gets higher, you get to $500,000, $1 million, the multiples start to go up too. You may start out at 1 or a 2, and then you'll go to a 3 or a 4 or 5 or a 6. It depends on the industry. And we look at all the sales counts for all the different industries. I've got access to, it's the 3 different databases that we go to determine what those numbers look like. And we'll use all three databases, and plus it's the discounted cash flow and then asset value, just determine what that business is worth. So when we go to market, we've got a range of value we think it's going to go for.
Well, I want you to talk about some things that I went through, Brad. One of the things were people calling my store and talking to my employees, and my employees go, "Is the business for sale?" That was really embarrassing.
Yeah, that's one thing. Probably the biggest thing that I looked at, even before I sold my business, because I owned a restaurant and I was trying to sell it, and I couldn't do it because everyone knows who I am, and because I own a restaurant. If you're a good restaurateur, most everybody knows who you are. Right. And if you put your email on there and your name and all that stuff, everyone knows the name of the business. When we take it to market as a we keep it confidential. We do a marketing teaser that's enough to get people interested, but not enough to give away the information. And a lot of times we won't put it in the same city that we were, that the business is in. We'll put it over a city or two away so that we can, especially if there's only one or two businesses like yours in the area, we want to kind of have a decoy out there. And then we'll put it out on all the platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, it's BizBuySell, it's LoopNet. There's all kinds of places where we put it, but we've got to keep it confidential. So that's what we do, is we give them information, but we don't give them the name of the business or the business owner's name or any of that information until they sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay.
So the next thing is, when it's your business, it's your baby, especially when you've started from scratch. And so you value your business, in my case, for a lot more. And then when the business broker came in and said, "Your business is not worth that much money," I almost had a heart attack right there, because it was my business. But that's one of the great things that you do when you evaluate a business.
Yeah. And sometimes we got to tell people their baby's ugly, but then we try to fix the baby. Just because it's ugly now doesn't mean it's always ugly. So right. A lot of times people call me and I go, your business isn't ready to sell yet because we haven't done this, this, and this. So we got to fix some things before we take it to market. And that may take a year or two. And it's about having the patience as a broker. Like, I'm not here to just take a business to market. Like, I want to maximize the value for the owner. And if now isn't the right time, then we say, let's push this out 6 months, a year, whatever. I've got a large one I'm working with right now, and they had a really bad they lost money in 22. In 23, they lost money. In 24, they made money, like, let's say 350, 400,000. And then in 24, they made 1.5 million. So now, sure, we love to go to market, but we can't justify the price on a multiple of 1.5 because we do it based on the last 3 years. So now we got to get through the second fiscal year and back up what we did in the previous year. And then we talk about, do we want to wait one more year, or do we wait another half year to prove that those previous 2 years weren't flukes and we've got a strong number, and the banks will do financing, and we've got a business that really makes a lot of sense. So that's what we try to do, is maximize the value. And sometimes it depends on the owner's health. The owners that I'm working with are in their mid-70s, but it makes sense to hold off. They have decentralized themselves in the business, so they're not in it day to day. So it makes it easier to hold off because they're not the cog in the wheel per se.
Well, I'm looking at all kind of questions, both from YouTube and TikTok. Most people are asking now, what types of businesses do you specialize in selling?
So it's 3 different areas that I specialize in, but I've sold probably 40 to 50 different types of businesses. And I'm not going to turn down a business that comes to me if it's a quality business, but typically HVAC, plumbing, electricians. I do a lot of restaurants because I own restaurants. I know restaurants. I know how to sell them, and then manufacturing. So those are probably the major areas that I'm in. But I've got a mental health facility that I'm selling right now. I've got a couple large restaurants I'm bringing on. So it varies, but I try to have a few areas of expertise, but businesses are businesses, but it's nice to have some expertise in the areas.
Yeah. So a lot of people are asking about, and I had this problem. When I was trying to sell a business myself, Brad, I had so many tire kickers that just wasted my time. And I found when I had a business broker, I didn't have to go through that anymore.
No, that's what we take care of the tire kickers, and we make them answer a lot of questions before they'll even get on it. And I do a lot of videos calls with buyers and sellers first and foremost. And I don't want to disrupt the business. I don't want to keep people after hours too much. We may do after hours calls, but what I try to do is we make them sign an NDA. I interview them. If I think they're a good fit, they go to the next level. Then I send them a buyer next steps program where I want a personal financial statement. I want proof of funds, and I've got a buyer questionnaire that they fill out. So once they've completed all that stuff and they've passed the test with me, then we'll set up a video call with an owner and walk through that process. But until then, I'm deflecting all that chaos from an owner and just giving them, even like I've had one where we had 60 buyers and we had 20 offers. And this was a convenience store and restaurant that we started at 1.3 million and we sold it at 1.8, $1.9 million. We drove the price up because we priced it reasonably. People understood that. And then we had a multiple of offers and we interviewed everyone. And when you have multiple offers, if you price it at a point where you can get multiple offers, restaurants are a little tougher than others. But when you price it correctly, it does give you, the more offers you have, the more you can design the deal that's best for the seller and the best fit. Because fit to me is more important than price. We want to get the highest price, but we want the highest price with the best fit. And that's really important with owners. Do you like the person? If you don't like them, if they're a jerk, the buyer, why would you sell to them? Because your employees are going to have to deal with that. And it's really about the owner has to make that decision. I'll make recommendations, but it's your business.
Brad, are there businesses that just never sell?
Yes. Yeah. Probably 70 to 80% on biz, buy, sell, don't sell. In the last 3 years, I think I've had one business that didn't sell because I don't take it to market. I will look at your business and tell you if I can sell it. If I can't sell it, I won't take it to market for you. I'll just tell you why. I will charge a small retainer up front for a commitment, and I don't want to keep that money. I want to sell your business. That's the goal. And so, if you hear me on this, on this show, I will do a free business valuation for it. If you mention it's the Ask the Experts.
So, I'm getting people are asking, and I understand every business is different, but what is the average amount of time, Brad, does it take to sell a business?
It's typically 6 to 9 months. It depends on the business. In the trades companies, it'll go a little faster. Restaurants could be longer depending on it. If we get I really don't want it to last long in the market because I want to price it at a point where we get multiple offers. But it's typically 6 to 9 months, I would say, from start to finish.
We're on TikTok right now, and if you have a question for Brad, please write it in the comment section. Please keep tapping that screen. Brad, I got to tell you, going through this myself, I got to tell you, how do I say? Don't try to do this yourself. I'm telling you, it was the biggest mistake I made, Brad, is trying to do this myself without a pro like yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of high demand companies, you're getting phone calls from private equity groups, especially, and they're wanting to, they want to get in the room with you and be the only one in the room. And what I try to do is bring multiple buyers in a room, especially with private equity. So we're getting, they want to pay a fair price and build a relationship with the owner. And that's great. We want to build a relationship, and we want to have the best deal structure and the best price and the best feeling. And when you only have one in the room, you really have none. So they're calling. so that's what I do, is bring all those people together, and I have all the connections, is to bring the players in the room. I mean, I was just at it's the M&A Source, and there was over 100 private equity groups with various backgrounds that they're looking for. And I sat down and it's basically speed dating, sat down and told them the businesses that I have in the funnel and which ones would be an interest to them. And then I create a list of potential buyers for all the businesses that I will have going to market in the next, the next year probably. And that's what I try to do. So I have a predetermined list on top of what I'm going to get from all the other places I'm putting the business.
This is from Marvin in Toledo. I am really enjoying the show. I normally only stay on for a few minutes on podcasts, and this show has really caught my attention. I'm curious. I have come into some money. I want to buy an existing business. What are good businesses to go into?
I would say it depends on your background, because that's really determines, what you want to do. Because if you want to say, hey, I want to buy a plumbing company. Well, do you understand plumbing? Do you have a master plumbing license? If not, you got to have someone in the company that when you buy it will stay on and you can use their license until you either get licensed or you keep a licensed person on staff. So it depends the background. If you've worked in restaurants, have a lot of restaurant background, sure. A restaurant might be in your future. But there's a lot of great businesses out there that are on the market. And when I take one to market, I usually make sure that they're SBA financeable. So if you're going to look at buying a business, which means you're only going to put the 10% down typically in a deal, and then the bank will get an SBA loan, it's support from the SBA on a loan, whether it's Huntington Bank or Live Oak or various other avenues. You want to make sure it's SBA financeable, because if it's not, and I tell people, if I have one on the market that's not financeable with SBA, I'll tell you, because you can't buy it unless you're a cash buyer, and there's just not many cash buyers on the market. So I'm really want to make sure that, so when you look at a business, if you can't get an SBA approved, you got to understand there's a reason for that. What's the reason? Is that they didn't have enough of a track record, or do they have a bad year last year, which makes it so it doesn't cash flow on paper for the last year? So there's a lot of moving parts in that, and really you have to determine what type of businesses it fits your personality and what you want to do, what you enjoy.
I'm trying to go through all these questions. We've only got a 25-minute show. Here's a person that knows a person that you sold their business, and they raved about you. He wants to know, though, is there a right time to sell a business?
Any time's a good time. I wasn't in the business during the Great Recession, but there's never a bad time, because there's always money available. Private equity is always looking. Buyers are always looking. I have a list of buyers, probably over 2,000 buyers on my list that are looking for businesses. So
wow.
Buyers are plenty. There's never a bad time. It's just, let's look at it now and determine, is it the right time for your business to sell? Because maybe it might be right for you, but maybe your business isn't ready. So we got to fix it. So those are some of the things we want to do and I have consultants that I work with that will also help me in this side of it, because we have to prepare your business to sell so we can maximize it and make sure it's easily, we can get that transaction done with a bank, make sure we find the right fit. So there's not really a bad time. I have to say, around Christmas, when you look at November, December, January, everyone's looking at their year and analyzing, going, man, I've been working for the man for this many years. I'm at home. I've got some time off for Christmas break. I'll start looking for business. I have a ton of activity around that time when I have really good businesses, because they are looking and they're sitting at home, just finished up Christmas or their Thanksgiving break or whatever. And they have time on their hands. They're just kind of cruising, on the internet and looking for opportunities.
Here's somebody wondering, how do you know when the right time is to sell your business?
The right time is when, not necessarily when you're burned out. I would say the right time is when you're peaking, when the business is doing its best. What you don't want to do is stick around too long when your motivation starts to wane off, and you just don't have the drive to get up every day and do it, and you don't have that passion anymore. But you don't want to wait too long. If you're going like this, or even if you're steady is fine. But if you're starting on the downside, it's hard to sell a business what's declining because we can't explain to the bank why it's going down. Well, he just ran out of gas. He's tired. Or is the business concept, is that run out of gas? So you want to make sure you sell it at a point when you're at the top, or you're climbing, you're climbing up and your numbers look good and you're still strong and are motivated. When you start to lose that edge, I think that's when you got to really start, having some real honest conversations, and do it sooner than later. Even if you're not selling, think, I don't want to sell for 5 years. Let's look at your books. Let me show you what's good and what's bad and how it's valued. Because if you know what your business is worth, how do you know what your retirement looks like if you don't know what your business is worth, when your business is usually 80% of the net worth of a business owner? So why don't we look at the financials and let's look at where you're at. Let's see what the multiples are and say, hey, here's some goals here we want to go, whether we bring a consultant in or whether I work with you, whatever it may be. Let's get it to the point where it's ready to sell.
Since I'm the host of the show, I get to ask a question with all these people wanting questions. Is there like small detail that can create a big issue at a closing? And is there a way to catch it early?
That's usually gets caught in due diligence. If there's anything, I try to look for everything. I don't do as deep a due diligence as a buyer is going to do in that process, but I do a lot of the vetting on the financials to make sure, it could be a lien on maybe the real estate that's being sold with a business that is, maybe it was the owner's dad's business and he put a lien on it for some reason. You can't get the lien off it. Or if it's, but we usually know this, like licensing. Licensing could be a thing, or there could be an environmental that would come back. If you do an environmental on the property and it's being sold with a business and all of a sudden environmental comes back, that's raising some flags. So those are some things that we try to do ahead of time, but I don't necessarily say an owner should do a environmental just because they're bringing their business to market. If they know they don't have any tanks, underground tanks, and they're not haven't done anything hazardous, they're probably in good shape. But just it's crazy. There's things that happen all the time. We try to look at them, and that's what I do. The longer I've done this, I have a whole checklist that we go through. So we make sure we have all this stuff kind of lined up and we know what we're doing, because I've been there. I mean, one time we had an owner that overvalued the equipment. And what I tell people now when we take a business to market, hey, if the equipment's worth 100, if it's worth 50, if you think it's worth 100, just say it's worth 50. Because what you don't want to do is be in a process and you're almost to the closing table and the buyer comes and looks and says, well, you said this skid steer was worth $75,000. It's really only worth $40. I want to retrade and I want to reduce the price by, $35,000. Well, those are things that happen to me once and won't happen again. We do that ahead of time. We know what things are worth and undervalue equipment, because the equipment's coming with the business no matter what. You can't sell the business without the equipment. It's part of the business.
I got to tell you, Brad, I love, if people haven't noticed, you really know your stuff. And it is so important that you align yourself with someone who really knows about not just one kind, but different businesses. So we've got all these people asking, how do they reach you? There's a lot of people that I'm sure can see us scrolling your number, but for those who are listening on iHeart and Spotify and on TikTok, how do people reach you, Brad?
You can reach me on my site. You can call me directly. It's a 330-524. It's the 8205. You can go to my website. It's a glbainc.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my company on LinkedIn. It's Great Lakes Business Advisors. You can find me on Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel that I have a ton of videos up where I presented to various groups. I talk about various topics that you can jump on there. All the Ask the Experts are on there. So I do a lot of that sort of thing. So just put you can reach me in many different ways. I'm out there. Just Google me. You'll find me.
Okay. And Brad will be back again with us next month. Brad, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll see you next month, bro.
All right. Thank you.
That's Brad Ruth, business broker. We're going to go to a break and we'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.